Richard's YouTube channel. Today's class we'll be learning how to make this lovely asymmetric bubu dress. So it's an asymmetric neckline, as you can see. It's an off shoulder on one part and the other has like a kimono effect, and then we used a rope to tie the off shoulder part of this dress. So it's a full dress and it is the length is up to the floor length. So if this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So to draft this asymmetric bubu dress, I'd have loved to do this directly on my fabric, but I'm using this black crepe fabric. It's a bit stretchy, but the chalk is not showing well on it. So I'm going to be illustrating what I'll be doing on a paper first before we now transfer this to our fabric so that we can get it well. So now this fabric is folded into two. So I just folded this into two, which means I'm folding the front and back together. And the measurement that I used in folding this is what I'll be illustrating for using this white paper. Okay. So now the first measurement you need to get is the fullest part. That's your biggest measurement, your biggest circumference measurement. In this case, it's my hip, so it can be anywhere that you know you have the fullest. That's the measurement you're going to be using to fold it. So now the hip measurement I'm using for this is 46 inches. So that's the total hip measurement. And remember that I said this fabric is folded into two. So now I'm going to be dividing that measurement by two, and that is going to give me a total of 23 inches. Okay, that's for my front alone. 23 inches for front, 23 inches for back. And if you notice this asymmetric bubu, you notice that one side is an off shoulder, it doesn't have a sleeve, while the other side has a shoulder and also it has a sleeve joined together with it, which makes it look like a kimono sleeve. So now to this 23, now you need to add that sleeve that you're joining to it. So from your shoulder measurement, from your right, like your armhole area, you measure where you want your sleeve to stop. It can be on your elbow, it can be 3/4, it can be on your wrist. So for me, I want it around the elbow area, which is around 10 to 11 inches for me. So I can just work with 12 inches with allowance. So because this sleeve is just on one side of the body, I'm not going to be multiplying it by 2. So I just add the 12 inches to this half hip measurement that I have. So if I'm adding 12 inches to 23 inches, that's going to give me a total of 35 inches. Okay, so if I have a total of 35 inches, I'm just going to add 1 inch allowance to it for sewing, for seam allowance, because remember one side does not have a sleeve and it's going to be somewhat smaller than the other side. So I'm just going to use that 1 inch to sew in that side without the allowance, okay, without the sleeve. So now I have a total of 36 inches. So it is this 36 inches that I'm going to be using to fold my fabric, which means for my front I'll fold in 36 inches, and then for the back it's going to be another 36 inches. So the total amount of fabric you need is 36 by 2, which is 2 yards of fabric. Remember, 1 yard is 36 inches. So now we are using 2 yards of fabric. I have 2 yards of fabric here, and I folded it into 2, which means I'm using 1 yard for the front and 1 yard for the back. So now the length, that's how long the fabric is, now depends on the length you want to work with. It can be a short dress, it can be 3/4, it can be floor length. That depends entirely on you. So you are folding your fabric using 2 yards of fabric by 60 inches. This fabric is by 60 inches and the length I'm working with is 58 inches. So I have cut off the excess. Now I have 2 yards, that's 72 inches by 58 inches on my table. So I'll be using this paper to illustrate it. So I don't know if this paper will be up to 36, but we'll just check. Okay, so we have exactly 36 inches on this paper. So this is 36 inches, and then this is going to be the length. Okay, so the first thing you need to do now is to measure your, I hope you can see this well. So the first thing you need to do now is to measure your half hip measurement, which is 23 inches. So from this point now, I'm going to be taking that measurement, 23. Okay, and the rest that you have, of course, you know that's for the sleeve that you're adding to the one side. So now I have 23 inches like this. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to put this on fold so that I can get my center front, my center fold. Okay, so 23 inches on fold. So now you may add your 1 inch seam allowance to this 23 inches. Okay, So now I have 23 inches. This is my center fold. So this is the center fold, and then this leftover that we have here is for our sleeve. Okay, so if we measure it now, you will see that we have 12 inches for the sleeve. Okay, so now the next measurement you'll be taking is your shoulder measurement. Remember, this is the center fold. The shoulder divided by 2. The shoulder I'm working with is 16 inches. Divided by 2 is going to give me 8 inches, which is here. And then after taking the 8 inches measurement, I'm going to take my armhole measurement. And the armhole that I'm working with is also 16 inches or 16 and a half. Okay. The armhole is the armhole is 16 inches. I've just checked. It's 16 inches, and 16 divided by 2 is going to give me 8 inches. So now I have 8 inches there, and then using my ruler, I'm going to make it into a straight line. Okay. So now the 8 inches that I have here, I'm going to measure it on my armhole line also, so that it's going to guide me in drawing my tentative armhole curve. Okay. So now this is my armhole line. Then using a curve, I'm just going to draw out an armhole curve, which is going to be like a guide for me. So I'm just drawing my armhole curve and just measure the midpoint of this, and then on the midpoint to go in by ½ inch. Then you join all these points together. Remember, we are using our hip measurement here, so it's going to be a bit bigger. So the actual bust measurement that I'm working with is 40 inches. 40 divided by 4 is going to give me 10 inches, so which is here. So now I'm going to draw my armhole curve. Okay, so now we have this as our armhole curve. And then the next measurement now is our neckline measurement. So because I don't want this neckline to be too wide, I'm just going to be working with my 3 inches natural neckline measurement. And then on that part, we're not going to be cutting the neckline out. I'm just cutting the sleeve, the armhole. And then the armhole is just, I'm cutting just this one. That's the side that does not have our sleeve. Remember, this is the side with the sleeve. So now I'm just going to cut out this armhole. Okay, so now if you are working with a fabric, remember we are working with a paper, that's why it is easy, it's obvious for us. But if you are to be working with a fabric, you need to notch this center front part. Also your neck points, that's the neck width we are working with, we need to notch it also, so that by the time we open it out, we are going to see it well. Okay, so now the next thing to do now is to open this up, since we already noted all our important points. So I'm just going to write it out. This is the center fold here, and these are the 2 neck points. Okay, so now the next thing now is to draw out my asymmetric neckline. So to do this, on my armhole point, I'm going to measure how low I want this. So you can do maybe 4 inches, 5 inches, or 6 inches, but I think I'll be working with 6 inches, which is here, or 5½ inches. Okay, so once I note that point, on my center front, I'm going to measure my neck depth, and I want to work with a neck depth of 3½ inches because I don't want it choking. So now I measure the 3½ inches. So now the next thing I'm doing now is to connect from this shoulder. Remember, this shoulder, this other neck point is going up because it's an off shoulder. So from here, the one with the shoulder, I'm going to connect from here now all the way to my neck depth, and then to the 5½ inches that I measured here. Okay, so you can see the way I've connected it for my asymmetric. So now using my scissors, I'm just going to shape out this neckline. So we have one part with a shoulder, and then the other part is an off shoulder. So now we are done with the neckline. The only thing you need to do now is to measure your sleeve opening. So for me, I'll be adding an elastic band to the hem of the sleeve. So I'm just going to be measuring 10 or 12 inches so that I'll have, remember, if you measure 10 inches, by the time you open it out, it's going to be 20 inches. So I think that's enough for me. So I'm just going to measure 10 inches from the upper part here. But we want to do a shoulder slope, which I think I'll be doing. So on my tip here, I'll be going down by 2 inches for my shoulder slope, and then from there I'll connect it to to the neck point using a long ruler. So now my sleeve opening now will start from my shoulder slope. So this is a freehand cutting. We're just cutting on the paper so that we can see it well. So now from this shoulder slope, now I measure 10 inches for my opening here, and then I'll pass an elastic to it so that our sleeve will be obvious and distinguished. Then you can have a casing for our elastic. On this 10 inches mark, I'll go inwards by 1.5 to 2 inches. So I'm going inwards by 2 inches, and then I'm going to curve it. You don't want it this slant. I'm going to curve it like this, and then I'm going to go all the way to the hem of the dress. So now we're going to curve it like this because you don't want that point too sharp. And this is what we have. Okay, so now everything that I've done here, I hope you can see it. Everything that I've done here now, I'll go over and replicate it on my fabric. I'm going to cut off this shoulder slope also. So I'll do all this on my fabric also, then I'll bring it back so that we can continue. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut this on my main fabric. So this is the neckline part, and then it's just long to the hemline, just like that. So you can see the curve that we did here. I went in by 2 inches, and then I just curved it and went straight down like that. So this is the asymmetric neckline. This is the neck point on the one with shoulder, and then this is the one without the shoulder. This is the remaining parts of the armhole, which we are going to be covering up with a facing. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut a facing for this, and then by now I'm sure we know how to cut a facing. All you just need to do now is to fold your fabric and place it under this, and then trace out exactly what you have here. So I folded my fabric into two for both the front and back, and then I placed this. So now I'm going to trace out this neckline. I can see it clearly, but because it's black color you may not see it. So I'm just tracing out what I have here, and then I'll trace out the armhole as well, and then I'll just cut this out. So now if I remove my main fabric, this is what I have. So you can just measure maybe 5 inches down, because the lower the facing the better, so that it doesn't just stick out, and then you just cut it out like this. So now the next thing now is for me to go ahead now and sew my facing to my neckline. So I'll just pick one of each. I'll place it right side facing right side, and then I'm going to pin it down. So at this point, if you want to add a rope to this, so you suspend your rope in between your facing and your lining. So what I mean by this is this. I'll just bring in my rope. Okay, so I have this long rope, and like I said, this fabric is very stretchy. So if you are working with a stretchy fabric, you can even reduce your measurements if you don't want it too big. So now this rope is around 32 inches in length. So what I'm going to do now is on the part that is an off shoulder, that's the part that does not have a sleeve, I'm going to sandwich this, okay, between this is my facing and this is my actual fabric. So now I'll place this in between the facing and the fabric on this part, not on the armhole part. So where the armhole starts here, that's where I'm placing it, and then I'm going to cover it up with my facing like this. So you can pin it, and then I'm going to run a stitch through the neckline and then also through the armhole, so that I can neatly turn out the armhole. So I'll do that for the both of them. Then after doing that, I'm going to place my front on and my back on each other, and then I'll sew it on the shoulder, and then I'm going to sew it on the side seam. So it's as simple as that. Then you create a casing for your arm sleeve opening, and then you pass your elastic. So I've gone ahead to sew in my facing and my main fabric, and then my sleeve is in between. That's my rope is in between them. So I use this color of thread so that we can see it, because the fabric is very dark. I don't want to use a black thread, so you can see my seam line. So you just notch it. Now by the time I turn it out, you can see that the armhole area now is clean and this is what we have. Okay, so this is the asymmetric part of our sleeve. So you can see that this is neat. So now the next thing now is to place the front and back on each shoulder. So you do the same turning that we did here for the back part also. So now you place the front and back together, and then you join it on the shoulder. That's the part that has the shoulder. So now you join the shoulder. If you want it to be clean, so remember we still have our small facing here, so you use it to turn it like this, sew it, and then you turn it out again, just the way we turn our normal shoulder. And then here I'm going to place my front and back together, and then sew it on the sides, and then sew it on both sides, on the second side also. Then I'm going to create my casing on my sleeve so that I can pass my elastic, then we'll turn it out and see what this is looking like. Okay, so now it is all sewn. You can see the side now. I've sewn the side for the off shoulder, and then this is the side for the one with shoulder. And then also on the neckline, I just turned it in a way that the neck point is going to be neat, so you can see. So I used my facing to turn it neatly like this so that I have something neat. And then for the off shoulder part, so that my seam allowance here is not going to be sticking out on my underarm area, I decided to just place it in a way that I sew the facing separately from this. So you just place your facing and your main fabric at the point where they meet. That's the point where you sew them together when you are turning them, and then you sew your facing separately and your main body separately, so that you can fold it over it like this, and it's going to serve as a lining. And this is what the underarm is also looking like, is also neat. So you can reduce this seam allowance so that it's not going to be too bulky there. And then you can see our rope here, so you can tie it anyhow you want. So this is what we have now. And then here I just decided against putting an elastic here. So if you want to place an elastic here, it's fine. You just need to fold this like this, sew your elastic casing, then leave maybe an inch open where you pass your elastic to it so that it can gather it for you. But I just want it free like this. The sleeve opening is not too big, so I can still make do with this. So now I'll turn this out, and then we'll see what we have. So turning it out now, this is what this looks like. This is the part with the shoulder, and then this is the off shoulder part. So now you can use an hemming gum to iron your facing to your main bodies, because you don't want it to stick out, or you can just top stitch on it. So this is what it looks like. Now I'll take this to the mannequin so that we'll see what is looking at the fit on the mannequin. Okay, so this is the part with the rope, this is the armhole, this is the asymmetric neckline, and this here is our shoulder. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me though. It's very simple and it's beginner friendly. So now see you on the mannequin. This is what our full dress is looking like. You can see the asymmetric neckline. So if you want your neckline wider than this, remember the neck width I used is just 3 inches, which was just at the point of our neck point here. So you can use 4, you can use 5, depending on the style you are going for. And then if you want the depth also lower than this, you can use maybe 4 or 5 inches before you connect it to the off shoulder part. So this is our rope. I like my rope to be long, so this is why I have it this long. You can do more or less depending on what you want. And then also you can place the rope up like this, but I think it's finer on the side like this. So this is the part with the sleeve. So here now, assuming I want to add an elastic to this, it will just be fitted around this area, but I just want it free. That's why I decided not to add any elastic to it, and it's just this cute. So you can see the length of the sleeve is just around the elbow area. If you want it longer also, you just extend the sleeve as the case may be. So this is the full feel of the dress. I can see how beautiful this is looking. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed this, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.